It's Ed.
It is Ed.
You're on.
But we need the Genie K bumper.
It's not working. I tried playing it.
You should have told me that.
Technical difficulties. Come on, man.
Welcome to Inside Vaping, your resource for vaping news. This is episode 29. It's the end of the world as we know it. I am Ed the Green, your host tonight. Our show airs live every other Tuesday night starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via YouTube live event at thehomepage.com/live. Can't watch live? Catch the replays on InsideVaping.net. Let's introduce one of the stars of our show, Dane the Professor Smith. Dane, how's it going, buddy?
Excellent, Mr. Ed. Thank you very much. I am doing very, very well.
Nice. So I hear you actually got vape mail. Why don't you tell us what you got?
I know it's stunning, isn't it? But it's not really mail in the conventional sense. I actually went to a local brick and mortar and got it. I picked up a K-Box and a sub-tank and some coils, of course, for said sub-tank. And I gotta tell you, I kind of like this little setup. Kind of like it.
Are you a cloud chaser now?
I'm a cloud chaser now. It's my first real foray into sub-ohming, I think.
And how's
Although I don't have the sub-ohm tank, the coil in here. It's the 1.2.
But you're having to do a lung pull on that now, right?
Yes, that's the biggest adjustment I've had to this so far. Because you're right, you know me well. I am normally a mouth-to-lung inhaler, and the smallest draw on this was just too tight. And even the medium draw was a little too restricted. So I opened it up all the way.
And Jerry gave us a fine example of a lung pull just now. If you guys didn't hear that.
Sorry, got the mute.
So speaking of Jerry, up next from New York, Jerry Veros Vapor. How you doing?
Good. So I'm kind of on the same Kanger kick. I got myself a sub-box mini kit.
Yeah, so you had to one up.
I had to one up Dane. Had to get this nice slick, black and red sub-box, and I'm loving it. Actually, I'm pretty surprised.
There's something about that reminds me of a Lamborghini. I think it might be the lettering. You know, the contrast of the black and the red. Have you ever seen those stealth Lambos?
Yeah.
That have that same color theme going on. Yeah. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, but they're not $55.
I don't know. I think the Chinese are pretty good at that key technology.
Yeah, I've seen the Lambo
for opening cars. Yeah.
Shh, don't give that away.
I don't think. Oh, come on. It's going to be on Vapor Joe's blog any minute. He'll have the kits with the codes.
Now, Jerry, you were talking a little earlier about that being good for a new vapor.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't done a review in a while because there's just nothing out there that I was really that interested in that I thought was different. You know, everything's kind of like something else. And, I kind of overlooked the new vapors and the starter kits and stuff like that. And, a lot of people I know who started out with egos and stuff like that, they were dual users. They really weren't fully on board with vaping and weren't satisfying enough. So something like this, I think, is a good idea. There's really nothing new here. It's just the way it's packaged and marketed. And, it's everything you need. And you don't have to worry about, choosing the right mod. It's all set up and ready to go for a sub-ohm coil. 50-watt mod. Comes with everything you need. The cable even got a charging port on it, so you don't need a charger. You just need battery and juice, and off you go.
Cool.
So I think it's a pretty good starter.
And
you got the rebuildable head in it too, which is actually working out to be pretty good.
And we'll see a proper review on your YouTube channel soon.
By the end of the week.
Nice.
No charts.
No charts.
No.
Somebody said there's audio lag, and I just realized I haven't shut any of the plethora of streaming services that I have running on my computer down. So, oops. Yeah,
it's all the porn sites.
Maybe it'll be better now. Maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna get phone calls now, like, "Oh, dude, I was watching that."
Be like, "Too bad, it's Tuesday," and now it's only every other Tuesday, so they have no room to complain.
That call would be for me, dude. What the hell would you turn it off for?
Well, that is our resident cable guy, and now for the man who needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyways. James Uncle Dagger Martin. What's going on?
What's up? I'm gassy. That's it.
Thanks for
That's all I have to report. I don't know. It may be from the nicotine because I got this new Enjoy Recharge kit from, oops, wrong screen, Frank at Vape Expo. My buddy Frank from Alt Smoke gave me one of these, and I gotta say, it's really nice. The nic level is really high. Of course, no stranger to nicotine. I also love my snus, and I got some snus mail this week. I got the Thunder Limited Edition 2015
Jesus,
snus can here.
Size of that
Wait,
thing.
hold on. Did you have to plant a magic bean and climb up to the clouds to get that?
So this is the crazy thing, Ed. One of these flavors is called Kick Ass. It's jalapenos and chili.
Ooh.
And I have to say, I'm not really crazy about it. To me, it tastes like nachos without the nacho cheese. Just kind of the salty tortilla. But there's some really good ones in here. They've got Nilla Shock, which is vanilla. They've got a lemongrass and mint, and Primo Lima, which is a lime flavor with a little bit of salt, kind of like a margarita. So that's pretty cool. But very neat packaging.
Yeah,
Let's see, what else have we got? I don't know. That's it for me for now. What about you, Ed?
me? Well,
Yeah.
I've been running on plumes.
A vapor?
Dump plumes. The plumes.
So we threw my 6-year-old daughter a birthday party yesterday, and the night before I was up till 2. My wife was up till 4. I had to work yesterday morning for a half a day, come home and get all the party preparations going. On top of that, during pre-show last night, I ended up spending $600 on Amazon.
Ooh.
What the hell would you be spending $600 on? That is crazy, dude.
It's so we're going camping this weekend, and I started off with one of those tow hitch platforms that you can
I
put.
thought he said towhead. I swear to God.
Tow hitch, the square thing on the back of your truck. Well, it's a big platform. You can put coolers and tents and all that kind of stuff on there. So I bought that, some sleeping bags, a couple other things, and I already had like almost $200 in the cart. Come to find out that if you spend over $599, you get 12 months same as cash. So I'm like trying to buy stuff. So my wife's been wanting a zoom camera for her Rebel DSLR. Mm-hmm. So I bought that, a flash, some insect repellent, some fly sticky traps, a shock collar.
A shock collar?
For you?
What?
Why
For your
do you
wife?
need a shock collar?
This ain't
You're
50
camping
Shades, dude.
Really? Cattle prod, shock collar.
I've got a Dotson. She's a very stubborn dog.
I thought he
Dane-
said Dotson.
A
I think we
Dachshund.
both need to get our
A
ears checked.
Dachshund, a wiener dog.
Okay.
And Dane knows what my wiener dog does, among other things.
It's true.
Yeah, she
Pees on the floor. A
pees
lot.
on the floor.
A lot.
She's
She
one of
hasn't
those.
been so bad lately. What she has been really bad at, that we broke her of this like 3 years ago when we used to have a shock collar. She gets on the kitchen table. You literally leave the room within 3 seconds. She's on the kitchen table. We'll push all the chairs in. She'll push them out. Get on the table. She ate a whole bag of it was candy from a piñata from Lucy. She was at a party this weekend. Ate the whole bag.
Wow.
Puked it all up everywhere. So I got to get another collar because the old one broke. So yeah, so that's I'm done. I'm tired, exhausted, but having fun.
So
Outside
what
of
about
that,
vape mail?
vape
What'd
mail,
you get?
I picked up a Zephyrus.
The syphilis.
Yeah.
No, Zephyr. Is that?
Yeah,
Syphilis?
I got that.
Man,
from-
my hearing's bad.
yes, I
Some
got syphilis.
penicillin e-liquid for that.
Yeah, I got it from Amazon too. No, I'm just kidding. So I
And
picked
Amazon?
up it's a SUB-OHM tank, aka RTA, rebuildable tank atomizer.
Yes.
And so far, I simply love this tank. It's K-Fun-like, so it builds kind of like a K-Fun, but it's got a 3-post, 4-hole design, 5 mil capacity, and lots of airflow, and really easy to fill. I just pulled a D.
I think that was on purpose. How big is a deek? How big is a deek on that atomizer?
It's about that big. It's about that. So I vape two different ways. I got the old school tight draw mouth inhale on my K-Fun Light Plus, and wide open effortless. Like I've got my little Mutation X that's just got airflow for days. It's like just effortless lung inhales. I did pick up a silver play because I was looking for a rebuildable tank with lots of airflow. It did have a lot of airflow, but the bottom fill method just sucked. So I went on the hunt. Yeah, it sucks. So I went on the. God, you guys are just beating the shit out of me now. So I found the Zephyrus. I found the Zephyrus, and I'll give you guys a close up of how it fills.
I'll be closey time.
So it has a top fill method.
Is that organic paper towel?
Yes, from Viva. From Viva.
On an organic wood desk.
That might be a little bit. There we go. So you unscrew the top, and you got this little silicone plug here. You pull the plug out, and we got a little figure 8 there. Now, I don't like to leave this out too long because now I'm letting air into the tank, and it could leak if you leave it out too long with a full tank. When the tank's empty and you go and refill it, it doesn't leak out the bottom.
And those are the air slots?
Yeah, look at that.
Jeez, that's huge.
Yeah.
You can see all the way through it. This bottom ring is adjustable. You can turn it down. But I can fill that bottle with the old... I mean, you can fill the tank with one of these old school bottles.
Wow.
It works, and it doesn't go everywhere and spill because the air comes out that other side of the figure 8. There's that. Where did I leave off?
That's pretty
I
good.
don't know.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, shows bottle. So, that was one thing I meant to talk about too. Is that the only difficult thing is when this gets a little wet with liquid, it can be a little slippery. So I tend to take it off.
Slippery when wet.
Slippery, yeah, it is slippery when wet. So I'll put it on the towel and dry it off. I'm going to use it for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll report back and see how it's holding up.
Is that plastic or a glass tank?
This is glass.
It is, okay.
It's glass. And I'll shoot a video of breaking it down for next week's show. I've really been digging this. Tank. And aside from that, I got a sub-tank mini for $10.49.
Bastard.
And I'll tell you all how I got it at the end of the show.
You stole it.
Yes,
That's
I
how I
stole
got
it.
He stole it from Jerry.
You bought somebody 2 beers.
He took it
At
from
a
Jerry's
stadium.
doorstep.
That's
So
right.
let's get this show started. Here's the rundown. So James, well, he went to Vape Expo. We have the Kansas City Bill. We talk about the Alliance RDA and the Enjoy Recharge. Anakin announces a revolutionary true vaporizer temperature control technology. Vinnie Jones endorses transgender vapor products, changes name to Vanessa.
Don't remember that.
I don't know. Ed said it, not me. He's a pretty big guy.
Hey, it's a
You
note.
better hope he doesn't find you.
I remember that in the rundown. Vinnie Jones
Governor-
is not somebody I want to piss off.
Governor Jay Inslee issues a virtual eviction notice, a vaping cell phone, and more. Well, let's start off with Vape Expo. What's the good word there, James?
Vape Expo was a lot of fun. There were a lot of friends that went there. There was a very, very nice turnout as far as vendors. I've always loved the venue because I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this have been to major meets before, major conventions. And one thing that most of them have in common is, a lot of times they're restrictive about where you can vape. They don't want you vaping in the rooms. They don't want you vaping in common areas outside the expo hall. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, the meet is held at the same hotel, which is the... Oh, man. Now I'm going to forget the name of the hotel. Something Garden.
Welcome to
Doggone
James'
it.
Lost Weekend.
I drank too much vodka while
Would
I
it be
was
a
there.
Hilton Garden Inn?
No, it's not Hilton
No.
Garden.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
Secret Garden?
It's a really nice hotel, and they let you vape anywhere. and it's got a very open feel to it because the rooms are on the outskirts of this large common area, and it's just a great venue. This is a Vaping Militia event, and I had the pleasure of talking to Joe Barnett a little bit while I was there. What are you laughing about now? Oh, man. Okay. I'm reading the show doc change before my eyes. Yes. I believe there were.
Good,
there
thank
were. Yes. You just wanted confirmation on something. Was there a different feel from last year to this year? Yes, there was. And that's one of the things. And you know what? I hate to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but it's really changed a lot since, like Vape Bash 1 and some of the earlier events, like the early VaporCons. And honestly, it's a very different scene. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that is an observation that I've made here. A lot of people vaping on 0 and 3.
Wow.
Most people SUB-OHM now. One thing you can immediately notice is the difference in the density of the fog in the room, and it was in full effect this year. In fact, the hotel staff was very well trained to shut off the fire alarm system as soon as that alarm went off. So basically, they'd have to hit a keypad, punch in a code to disable it. But the joke was that's 17. We would keep saying that's 17 every time it went off because we lost count at a certain point. So that's about it for Expo.
Did you buy anything there?
I did. I bought an Alliance RDA, which I don't know if you're familiar with the Mutation X. Well, Ed, I know you said you have one, and I'm pretty sure Jerry's probably used one before. The creator of the original Mutation X RDA, I suppose, according to this, was Fogwind Vapor Company, and Yosh, which is part of VaperGate e-liquid in Denver, Colorado. They created this Alliance RDA. Let me see if I can show you this here. If my transition will work. And I'm going to try to hide this device here because you can't see that. But anyway, this is the Alliance. This is the Alliance RDA. And it's a really nice looking dripper here. A lot of airflow options. It does have this wide bore drip tip that's a friction fit into the top cap section. And this is removable. Nice deep well, 6 millimeter, 3-post design. The really unique thing here is this has a squared center post with a peak insulator. The show special price was $40, but online I believe they're $45. This is the case that it comes in. If you take a look here, you have 3 different sleeves options. I have the largest airflow sleeve in there right now. And then you have a couple of smaller ones. Very nice engraving, very nice finishing on that. This is the real kicker here, though. This is a complete set of replacement parts and spare parts here. So you have a wide bore Delrin drip tip, you have a 510 drip tip adapter, a 510 shorty drip tip, a spare center post, 3 spare terminal screws, spare O-rings, and 2 spare insulators. So, and a screwdriver. So really nice value for your money there, and the performance is pretty good as well. I'm pretty happy with the performance on this thing.
And how many of those little screwdrivers do you have now?
10,000.
A plethora of little screwdrivers. I am disappointed that little screwdriver was not blue, so I'm going to replace it with one of the OG blue mini screwdrivers that I have laying about here.
Makes you more legit.
That was quite a cloud of vapor there. What's the wattage and ohm that you're running at on?
68 watts, 0.34 ohms, and this is not something that I can use that much because it's a little bit too much for me. So this is what I've been rocking on the normal here, which is standard old sub-tank, but with a temperature coil, and I gotta say, I'm loving this thing. Right now I have it set to 390 degrees, 25 joules. Yeah, joules. I still don't understand it either. I need to watch another Basardo video, I guess. And the vapor production is great, and I can vape this thing all the way to where the tank is completely dry without getting a dry hit. And even when I change flavors, these temp control coils are handling it very well. I don't know, Jerry, have you used them?
Yeah, I've used them in the sub tank. I don't like them in tanks. I just think I like them in drippers. I rather that's the only time I use temp control.
Yeah, see, I think tanks are a perfect application for it because, again, a lot of the thicker VG juices that you have now, if you're running those in a tank, sometimes you're going to get dry hits. It's just
I think though the effect of the temp control is more noticeable in the tank. You know, you feel the vape quality vary even during a hit. Versus an RDA, it's kind of just like a slow ramp as you dry the wick out.
I noticed that more with the 40, but with the SX350J, for some reason, I'm not really noticing it as much. But yeah, I guess your mileage will vary. But anyway, that's pretty much it for show and tell here.
Real quick on when you were talking about the temperature, they had it set for 390. For me, 390 was a little bit warm. But I also noticed that I never hit 390 when I was vaping it.
Yeah.
Did you actually look to see how high that temperature was going?
From what I can see, it is going that high.
Well, when you let off, it just goes back to 390. What I did is I actually looked in the mirror while I was vaping it because I couldn't focus that close to it. And I actually watched mine. It would go up to about 305 degrees, at least on my pull, because of course more airflow is going to cool it down. Yeah, I was just wondering if you had actually seen if it actually goes up to 390 or is it like hover down lower?
Yeah, I haven't noticed that, but I will say I've got a couple other devices with temp control here, and I mean, it's a remarkably consistent experience. So
Gotcha.
I did not like the version 1 of the temperature control coils. I think they must have changed something. I don't know. These may still be version 1s, but for whatever reason, the first batch that I got, I had inconsistent quality on the heads, and they wouldn't wick very well. So other thing, Enjoy Recharge Kits. Before I get to that, I do want to talk about one thing. CASA has an urgent call to action, or had an urgent call to action on Kansas, which they were calling for a 20 cents per mil tax bill. Senate approved the bill, and it was moving to the House today for a vote. There was supposed to be a tax conference committee meeting today at 2 p.m., but that was actually moved. And, they were supposed to meet at 9:30 a.m. They moved it to 2 p.m., then they moved it to 4 p.m., then 6 p.m. So there is no new update on this. And there is still, if you go to the CASA website, there is a call to action for you to write a letter and engage that committee and try to get this moved out because it's a damaging punitive tax. We actually have a video clip of a local news channel that reported on this as well, so we're going to play that right now here. If it'll play. Hello.
Well, this latest plan, as we mentioned, talks about taxes and specific taxes on e-cigarettes.
Yeah, but some shop owners say their profits could evaporate. 41 Action News reporter Brenda Lee Gonzalez shows us what some store operators say they'll do if they're faced with a new tax.
Vapers in Kansas may be forced to pay an extra $6 for containers like this. They're not the only ones considering moving across the state line to do business. After a year and a half, business at Flatland Vapes is better than ever.
It's been growing at about 20% every month, and we haven't seen any slowdowns.
But Eric McPherson is considering moving his shop across the state line to Missouri.
It's very frustrating. I don't know day to day what's going to happen.
That's if Kansas legislators decide to help fill the state's $400 million deficit by taxing e-cigarettes.
I can't survive tacking $6 a bottle on the liquid when they can go 5 miles down the road and get the same thing for less money.
I would probably be going to Missouri.
Hugh Brown is part of a 900-member vapor club in Kansas City. Around half live in Kansas.
I'm going to be taxed and punished for improving my health. I don't see that as a solution to the problem.
Legislators who agree with the tax say it's the only way to fix the budget.
I agree taxes are needed, but I think the better thing is to look at spending.
Hugh thinks in the end, it'll be the state's vapor shop owners who pay.
The latest estimates I've seen of about 300 businesses all across Kansas that are in the vapor industry. And I would be willing to bet 95% of them will close / move out of the state.
Including McPherson.
I'm looking at expanding. I've got 2 employees I'm looking at hiring, but right now that's all kind of on hold.
Who come next year may open shop somewhere else. A handful of store owners, including the one for this store, calling their representatives, urging them to vote against raising this tax before it's too late. Reporting in Shawnee, Brenda Luz Gonzalez, 41 Action News.
All right, so and there has been some feedback from different people that they've heard back from their representatives. Basically, they were trying to get votes to push this through, and slowly, vapors have been contacting their representatives and getting these people to commit to not vote for taxing e-cigs. In fact, there's a response from Representative Hinneman from Dighton. Taxing e-cigs is not the solution to the state's fiscal dilemma, and we need to look to more appropriate solutions. I will not be voting for any bill which taxes e-cigs. One thing that's important to note, and this is from the Kansas Vapors Association Facebook group, it's very important if you do hear from your representative to basically offer them some words of encouragement. Say thank you. You know, this is something that's very meaningful to me and my family, and has been very impactful in my life, and I appreciate you taking a stand on it, because that kind of positive feedback goes a long way towards just making these people feel confident and making those sometimes controversial choices in this day and age. Especially, we're going to be talking about the FDA workshops a little later on here. I mean, look, folks, this is under attack. Tobacco harm reduction is not something that people are entertaining as a viable alternative. I mean, it's basically a draconian, no nicotine type viewpoint that a lot of these people have. And vaping doesn't fit into that world. It doesn't.
No. And if you don't believe that this isn't an orchestrated, choreographed, legislative domino effect, then you're living in the Stone Age. It's happening state after state after state, and the punitive taxes are all very similar. The only thing that's different is the plus and minus a few cents per mil, but it's all the same thing across the board.
Yeah. So the next thing we wanted to talk about a little bit is these guys, because I'll tell you what, I got to say I really like them, but this did bring up a little bit of conversation. We talked about this in pre-show a little bit last night.
That's the Enjoy Recharge there?
This is the Enjoy Recharge Kit. I've long been a fan of Enjoy Kings. This is a larger pack. Unfortunately, I don't have any spare cartridges, but it does come with a tobacco and a menthol. I'm not sure what the nic level is on these, but I know it's marked on the website. I believe this is like a standard or bold flavor, so probably pretty high. They've got a nice little slip area for 3 spare cartridges. Of course, it's got that Zippo type clicky lid. And then on the bottom here, you have a door with a recharger. And the actual, I believe they call it the flavor pod system, or flavor cartridges, flavor chambers.
Flavor
they snap
chambers
into place. So you twist and pull it apart, and same thing, push it together, and the hit is pretty respectable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing you did. When I first saw that, I thought of the views, and I know how loose those get over time when you snap them and unsnap them, and that's the first thing I thought of. One. That's why I asked James, how well does that hold together?
Man, it's hellacious. It's a good tobacco flavor. It's got a lot of throat hit, because again, and this is something I realized, Dane, I'm not used to mouth to lung inhales anymore. Yeah. I'm really not.
Yep. It's an adjustment.
A lung inhale to me is totally devoid of throat hit most of the time. And if I want throat hit like an analog would give me, it's that mouth to lung.
Yep.
How much was that, James?
So the kits, which actually come with Let me see if I can show this here. I think the base kit, like the one that I held up, is actually $19.99, but they have a $29.99 recharge economy kit that comes with the base kit and then the USB charger plus a AC outlet and a flavor pack of 5 cartridges plus the 2 batteries, which, you know, I guess it's not horrible. Again, if I'm in a bind and I didn't have something to vape on, and I didn't have snus, I would probably end up picking one of these up. The one thing I will say, though, is the cartridges. 5-pack of cartridges is $13.99, so that's $2.80 a piece. And I'm not sure how long these actually last, because I haven't had it long enough to run through a cartridge yet. So
if it's like the Views, it lasted 20 minutes. And the only knock I had against these, if it really, well, it is a knock because it's a financial knock. If you add up $2.80 per cartridge and you go through 3 to 4 cartridges a day, you're still spending the same amount as you would on a pack of cigarettes. Yeah. And that, to me, is bullshit.
I got to mention something while I see it here. Somebody in chat just mentioned that there's no, I think it was Kirk said there's no tax increase on them. I know at least in Kansas, my understanding is that there still was a tax that would apply to them, but they simply didn't care that much because, again, it's a tax per mill.
Right.
And there's not a hell of a lot of e-liquid inside a 5-pack of Cardos. Yeah, it's just it's a minimal increase and a minimal impact on their convenience store products. So, yeah. But I think it's a decent device, and I've long liked the Kings as far as convenience factor, and just they're very similar to an analog if that's what you're going for. But I will say, and I'm sure most of the people in chat would agree, you know, that's not necessarily what we're going for anymore. You know, we got away from that. Maybe we don't even vape tobacco and menthol flavors anymore.
But for the entry-level people that do,
sure,
I think it's got a good. It has good direction in that share of the market, and I think it would work.
Yeah. You mean not like my Jacks?
You just look so absolutely suave with that thing.
I'm telling you, you guys are missing out.
Oh man.
You know, Jerry and I had talked, you know, in pre-show about these kits as well, and we were talking about accessibility to vapors and things like that, like getting themselves delving into the market. Because let's face it, most people start on a stick. If they don't start on a stick or a Cigalike, they go to an Ego or something like that. And if that doesn't satiate them, then they move up to something else. In most cases, at least from what I've seen, they move too far. They go from that beginner level all the way to advanced, and they miss that in between. And for people like me, I know there were a lot of videos out there that knocked the K-Box because of the coarse settings and the inability to fine-tune the wattage. Let me give you the perspective of a lazy vapor who really doesn't give a shit, much like myself, who wants to fill up a tank, screw it on, put the battery in, and vape. This is what I do. I tried it today. I put it on this box. This is a DNA 30 box. The setting on here, one of the lower settings is 13 watts. And I put it up to 15 watts, which is what I normally vape at. And I tested it on both devices to see if I could discern a difference. And I couldn't. So then I put it up to 20 watts, and I put it on both devices. And I could see. I wanted to see again if I could discern a difference. I could not. So to me, if you are vaping in that 8 to 25 range, why wouldn't you take a kit like this that's absolutely complete for a lower price, that gets you into the next level of vaping, that gives you a little bit of room to grow as well if you ever want to build, which is certainly not me, but some may want to. You have an awful lot of room here. You hear me say all the time, and I know these guys are sick of me saying it ad nauseum, build a better mousetrap. That's what I tell modders everywhere. You want to impress me? Build a better mousetrap. Get a better mousetrap that keeps those beginner vapors engaged and satiated so that they don't go back to traditional tobacco. And that's the win. That's the win.
And it really isn't like there's anything new here.
Right.
You know, there's nothing groundbreaking about these things. It's just the way it's packaged and marketed. They've made it a complete kit.
And I think there's room for devices like what you've got in your hand there, Jerry, and for some hot shot, you know, high wattage boxes as well, because obviously you're not going to vape. Well, let me rephrase that. I never vape that way all the time. If I'm in the car and I'm driving around or I'm just sitting at my desk at work, I'm not going to be dripping all the time. I hate dripping. I hate having to be a slave to my juice bottle. You know, I that's why I like the Rio so much. But yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm just looking for satisfaction, satisfying the hand to mouth, getting some nicotine, this is perfect. You know, a setup like this, a sub tank, something like that.
But I still don't think things like the Enjoy Recharge are any good for people trying to transition off analogs, because, you know, most new vapors who have not been in the community, they get their first e-cig from a gas station or 7-Eleven, and they're cig-alikes. Right. And those are the people that come to me and said, I hated it, it didn't work for me. So the Enjoy may be a good option as a backup, as we talked about when you're traveling, or when you break a mod. It's nice to have that as a backup, but I don't really think that's something I would recommend to somebody trying to get off cigarettes. And as Dane said, for $30, I mean, this is not that much more expensive. This is, $55. You still need a battery, but then you have this flexibility, and you have the potential to give somebody something that's much more gratifying to keep them off analogs. So
yeah, and I think Bruce and chat nailed it. Get the smokers something that isn't so damn techy and simple enough to just vape reliably. And that's the thing. It's like, and this is what I've seen again and again, even with, like, there's a few Chicago area vape shops that have a dearth of not starter kits, but I'm saying reliable options in that low-tech, reliable category for new vapors or people who are newly converted to e-cigs. There aren't that many options. It's like you either spend, you spend $150 or, you spend $25, but there's nothing in that middle ground short of buying individual components, which is where I think what you have there, Jerry, is brilliant. The fact that they're selling both of those together and marketing them together.
Yeah, and it's a match pair. And here's some numbers I'd like to see from vape shops as well. I'd like to see the hard numbers on the age demographic of the people that are quitting smoking, not starting vaping. That's different. Quitting smoking and going to vaping.
Yeah.
What are the hard numbers on that age demographic? Because Jerry and I talked last night that I think, at least in my opinion, this industry alienates people of my age, because we are now at the age that we want to quit smoking because we know we need to. So we're looking for an alternative, but yet we see techie devices like, and I know James can't hold up his device, but there are other devices with a ridiculous amount of controls, very confusing screens, and a lot of bells and whistles that we aren't very comfortable with. So we're looking for a much simpler alternative, but yet they're being pushed into products that are not only over their heads, but something they won't continue to use comfortably.
You know who I think has recognized that market segment? China.
Absolutely, China. Take a look right here.
Dude, look, I am, as somebody who has chanted Murica several times, as much as it pains me to say it, that's where this stuff is coming from, because it isn't American modders coming out with these products that, and I'm talking regulated. And that's the thing. It's like how many modders of regulated devices, and I hate to say it, because look, I love the Titans. I love the other boxes that I have that are Hammond boxes. How many American modders are actually making regulated box mods? And then let's even subdivide it further. How many American modders are catering to, and again, maybe it isn't modders then, American manufacturers are catering to the mass market. I mean, maybe Vapor Shark? I mean, heck, it's a hell of a deal right now if you can get a Vapor Shark for $40.
$45.
That's true. Yeah,
$45.
But that's tough that's tough for a new vapor to even spend $100 on a mod. I mean, they're looking to get into this. They're spending $5, $7, $8 a day for a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard enough for them to buy a carton of cigarettes, much less spend $150 by the time they buy a Shark. That's why that deal is pretty good. But all this was making me think, and I heard this somewhere else. Are e-cig products being made and developed for people who vape already?
Yes.
Yes, of course they
I
are,
firmly
because those
believe
are the ones who are spending money on expensive mods.
Yeah.
The small percentage and the hobbyists are the ones who are spending money on the Vicious Ants and all of those crazy mods that are really, really expensive. And look, there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist, but let's not forget, and I hear a lot of people say, let's not forget where we came from. I think it's almost too late for that. What I say is, let's not forget about the other side of this market that's a bigger majority than the people who are hobbyists.
And I think that there's products already out there. I mean, that's good. But like James at Kalamazoo Vapor Shop, I went on his site just to see, hey, I need some sub-tank coils. I know he carries Kanger products. He does not even sell the sub-tank as of a few weeks ago when I checked. He still sells the EVOD or the EMAU. He sells
maybe he hasn't updated
those.
his site, because that's where I bought this.
Oh.
At Kalamazoo.
From his shop?
No, well, from Vape Expo, because he had a booth at Vape Expo. But he had these, he had the temperature coils, he had the minis, he had the one that that Jerry was holding up. He had those too, and those were flying off the shelves. Everybody was walking around with those.
I need some candy corn e-liquid, damn it.
Candy corn e-liquid.
It is delicious.
The humanity.
This takes the intimidation out of it, because people go into the vape shops and they're looking at a whole rack of stuff, mods. Right. What do I do? What do I use that with? You just pick up this box, walk out the door with a bottle of juice and a battery. It's got a built-in USB charger, so you don't have to have that fact, oh shit, I have to buy a charger now. It takes all that worry away and allows people to have a more advanced device.
You're right, but
and they don't have to be into vaping or into the hobby to enjoy what most of us enjoy.
But Jerry, you do, because now you have to explain to that person how to fill it, how to make sure that that's wet. If it leaks, if it does this, if it does that, where they go to the convenience store and they buy a recharge for $30, and what do they have to do? Plug it together and use it.
Yeah, but it doesn't cut it for them.
All the more reason to build a better mousetrap, right? Because if you do, then you don't have those issues.
And this is the thing. And this is just, look, we got to move on because we're quickly burning through our time. But
it's entertaining.
I think this still has value for one reason. It is a great transitional product, okay? And maybe you don't need a recharge. Maybe you just need a 5-pack of Enjoy Kings. But it's enough to get somebody started on that path to getting committed. Yes. Is it the same as vaping on an Ego with a tank? No, it's not going to be the same experience. But at least it's going to get them introduced to something. It's going to get them a dose of nicotine that's very good. And I can attest to that. I mean, heck, I vaped on one of these things for 10 minutes and I was reeling because I wasn't used to it. Or at least not, other than snooze, getting my nicotine that way. And that's the thing. And I'm going to recall something else that Bruce said in the room, who apparently is going for most salient comments. He says, no one left behind. Don't elite ourselves out of being attractive as smokers.
Absolutely correct.
Amen to that, brother, because look.
Absolutely correct.
Here's the thing. We used to be on Vapors.tv. I think Vapors.tv is great. And granted, the reach of our show is small. But I want to still be able to reach out to people who aren't vapors currently. That's a very myopic viewpoint. If all you appeal to is the people in the community, then how are we ever going to grow that community? I mean, sure, there's organic growth just by friends and family, but there's got to be an outlet. There has to be some other way to get people interested in this and get people off conventional analog cigarettes. So.
Look, and I'll quote Dimitri on this as well, because it's the same thing with advocacy. When you're posting advocacy stories in a Facebook group that's vaping advocacy, you're preaching to the choir. It's the same. It's the same mindset. It's the same function. You're talking to the people who are already committed. The ones who are not committed I really, what I did when I first started is I looked up smoking support groups and say, hey, look, I tried this. You might want to give it a try. I'm not telling you that it's a savior for you, but it certainly worked for me. And I don't think that there's enough of that anymore. The grassroots movement, besides brick and mortar vape shops, I don't see it very much on social media whatsoever. People may talk to their families, and that's great, but there's a larger outer ring out there that I think that we're missing.
Yeah,
I think that's the good last word. What is our next topic?
All right.
Let's talk about meat.
Yeah, here. And this is me. I feel kind of silly now, but I read this story, and I'm looking in here, and I'm like, okay, so these butcher shops got busted in an e-cig sting.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I don't see where it's butcher shops. They're talking about convenience stores, whereas I thought tenderloin. This is what I think when I hear tenderloin, okay? As a fat man who enjoys prime bits of meat. Man, that didn't sound good. Anyway, that's what I think. So apparently tenderloin is, of course, an area in San Francisco. A community. So in what are among the first prosecutions anywhere for the unlawful sale of e-cigarettes, a new delivery system for nicotine, especially popular with kids. This is hoodline.com. And of course, they're touting the fact that it's especially popular with kids. 8 Central City retailers are among the 15 busted so far in San Francisco police sting operations targeting sales to minors. Using underage decoys last fall at the urging of the Department of Public Health's Tobacco-Free Project. We're familiar with those folks, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Police tested 80 retailers' compliance with a city ordinance that extends regulations against the sale of tobacco to minors to include e-cigarettes, which previously had enjoyed relative immunity from laws that were enacted before vaping came along. The targeted merchants were selected at random by a city contractor from Department of Public Health's constantly updated list of tobacco retailers. As of April, there were 924 in the city. Derek Smith, health educator at the Tobacco-Free Project, said 15 retailers, nearly 1 in 5 of those checked, were cited for selling to minors. In the Tenderloin, the 4 busted were New Princess Market, Tobacco Barn, and Werner's Liquor and Salem Grocery. SFPD, let me see, I tell the industry we're not trying to trick you, SFPD Lieutenant Dave Falzon told the Extra. We don't use giant kids or kids in nightclub attire. They never lie. They use lawful IDs or have no ID at all. If the person asks their age, they don't lie. Falzon, who said he initiated compliance operations more than a decade ago, said that when the police are checking compliance with alcohol regulations, the decoys are older, but for tobacco, the typical age is 15 or 16. Many are the children of other officers, he said, or came to the program from high schools via their interest in law enforcement or criminology. They wear body wires, and an undercover officer is present to make the citation should a violation occur.
Look, this is all I have to say about this story, and I'm going to do the proverbial mic drop here. Tenderloin is best medium rare, not entrapped.
Spoken like a true chef.
Oh, man. I'm not going to talk about young tenderloin.
No, tenderloins.
Yes.
That's sad.
All right,
I think you need to live in that neighborhood, though, James. I bet the meat there is good.
I'm sure it is.
So, Vinnie Jones?
Yes.
So Vinnie Jones is now the latest celebrity to endorse vapor products with the Kick
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
K-I-K E-Sig. K-I-K E-Sig.
If you're looking for something that's top quality, that I reckon's hard to beat, you're looking at it. Kick e-cigarettes. I reckon they're the business. It's quality. It's smooth. There's over 80 flavours and 5 strengths to choose from. So when your taste buds need a kick, you know the name.
20% off your first order online at kik.co.uk.
I strongly advise you do as the lady says.
I think I would do as he says, at least.
He scares me.
Yes, he does. He's kind of
It's
amazing to think he was a woman at one point.
He scares me.
We were talking about this before. Why the heck do we get Steven Dorff?
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, is that the best we can do? Steven Dorff? Come
You
on.
need like
Just
The
makes me
Rock or
sad.
something like
He's a
that.
poor man's Ed Green, like
Yep.
James said.
Dwayne Johnson.
We need The Rock, man.
Yeah.
Bro. You know how I
All
got
right.
biceps like this? I vape.
Try my steroid juice. It works.
So the other thing that we found this week in the news is apparently the first certified organic e-cigarette vaping liquid has been announced.
Whoa!
So this is the first USDA approved.
Organic means safe, right?
Oh, sure.
It means
yeah,
healthy.
of course.
It's healthy.
It means it actually has chicken turds in it. I'm pretty sure.
There's
that's what that
nothing like
means,
a
right?
good chicken turd, let me tell you what.
No pesticides. They use night soil on it, and if you don't know what night soil is, look that up.
Well, can you harvest that during the day?
Oh, you can harvest it at all times of the day in this porcelain bowl thingy.
It's
Anyway,
poop.
okay, enough about poop. Say hello to the first USDA-approved organic vaping liquid made from tobacco plants grown right here in the USA. Apparently, the plants are grown somewhere in the Midwest. Vape Organics is owned by parent company Trademark Cosmetics, which creates often organic cosmetics to be labeled under various brands. There were team members at Trademark who were vaping these really low-quality products, says Shirley Wrangler, Director of Operations at Vape Organics. That sounds like a name I would make up in a video game. If I was like a night elf ranger named Shirley Wrangler.
I'm going to use that as a gamer name.
She is Director of Operations at Vape Organics in a phone interview. So we wanted to use our expertise to offer the vape community something better and really try to raise the standards in the industry by adhering to the most stringent standards available. Yeah.
And organic certification is no joke. It is expensive and difficult to create a product that'll pass the USDA rules. The mere fact that they are stringent doesn't make them necessarily correct or even good, but certainly they're a better guideline than nothing at all. So Vape Organics makes the liquids that you put into refillable e-cigarettes. The company already has a zero nicotine certified organic vape liquid, which is mostly made of vegetable extracts and organic extracts. But this new certification, according to documents provided by Vape Organics, the USDA certified these on May 28th, and the USDA apparently has yet to update its own website by the time of this writing. So they crowned the first vape liquid containing nicotine certified to be organic.
Oh, organic. Where do I begin here? Let's talk about ingestion, okay? Yeah, ingestion, not inhalation here. Big difference there, kids. I fail to see how this product would negate any concerns for its ingredients when this product is being inhaled and not ingested. Yeah. As for the organic label itself, the food industry hasn't openly embraced this concept unilaterally, and for really good reason. Cost, selection, consistency, and market quality superiority over conventionally grown foods is absolutely still unproven. And before you go on a pesticide rant here in chat, there are foods that are not certified organic and yet still pesticide free. This is yet another marketing gimmick to boost sales, and a rather misguided one in my opinion, as the organic label doesn't really translate well in this industry. But lastly, ask yourself this question. How are organic tobacco cigarettes used by the consumer? That's some food for thought.
Yes, it is. And you know what? The other thing, too, is we have to remember that, look, I get what you're saying with the organic thing, but we are using a lot of Gras flavoring, generally recognized as safe. Right. And, you know, that flavoring, again, is intended for food use. Granted, some of the flavoring, you know, that's been tested, they've shown to have a negligible effect when you're inhaling it rather than ingesting it. But, you know, we can't ignore that fact, because sure enough, that got brought up during this FDA workshop as well. And that was under some scrutiny. Obviously, some things are worse for you than others when it comes to flavorings, like cinnamaldehyde, and there's a couple other flavors as well, some of the custards. Even though when we're talking about those concentration levels, it is still vastly smaller amounts of harmful pollutants and byproducts than what is contained in combustible cigarette smoke, which is an important distinction. So we're going to skip the next story for now. We're going to move on to the story after that. And before we even get to that story, okay, I want to play a video because I want to just talk about this, and we need to talk about it before we run out of time here. This is Mark Greenwald from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. And this is, I believe this was day 2, the morning session of the FDA workshop that they held a couple weeks ago. You'll have to forgive the video quality because their archive of the video was absolutely horrible. And this is the best I could get. So, here we go.
I'm Mark Greenwald, Senior Consultant with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. In order for e-cigarettes to
And that's a pause in the video.
play a constructive role in reducing tobacco-related disease, FDA must act promptly to subject them to regulation. The unregulated market for e-cigarettes has permitted e-cigarette manufacturers to target adolescents in their advertising and marketing and led millions of young people to experiment with this addictive product.
I'm going to stop it right here because we need to talk about this before we continue any further. Right now, what you're seeing is the industry is attempting to kind of clean up their act, per se, when it comes to like names and some of the obvious copyright or trademark violations that exist within the e-liquid world. And they're also getting rid of some of the advertising, which is overly cartoony. I am going to go on record here and say that, at least in my belief, my personal belief, is that I don't believe there were any vendors that were directly targeting children and the youth. Was it in some way attractive to them? Sure. I would agree with that.
And that is exactly my point, my friend. There is a big difference between marketing to kids and being attractive to children. So if we're going to have a tax Americana on hazardous products, you better start going unilaterally across the board. Look, FDA, you already looked at the dishwasher and washing machine tablets that have the colors in them. So you should tax them higher as a hazardous material too. Because it's not marketing to kids, it's attractive to kids.
It is.
You can't blur the line, and that's what's happening here, is that line is being blurred.
It is being blurred, but again, to their benefit, okay? What we're dealing with here is public perception, and we're dealing with the perception of a public who is they have patently stood against nicotine for years. That war is waged to the point of where, when I was a smoker, I felt completely ostracized. Was that habit something that was less than pleasant for those around me? Yeah, definitely. But nonetheless, I'm an adult. I live within the United States of America, and if I want to smoke a cigarette, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. The problem here is that perception, though. And that's a very powerful perception from uninformed individuals. They're going to look at it and they're going to see Captain Comet and Captain Crunch and all that stuff on the labels, and they're going to immediately say, well, this company's marketing to kids, because that's what they're fed. And this guy is a perfect example of that. Do I believe that labels that have that kind of do they need to exist? No, they really don't, because you know what? I'll buy a bottle with a label that's really plain. If I like that juice, that's good enough for me. I don't need the flashy marketing. But let's continue with the video here.
Regardless of the potential e-cigarettes may have to help adults quit smoking, exposing our kids to addictive products is too high a price to pay. FDA's first and overriding priority should be the protection of our youth. Nicotine is not a harmless substance, especially to kids. Besides being highly addictive, it interferes with brain development in adolescence. Kids who use these cigarettes...
All right, I got to stop it again because I'm going to go on a little rant here because this just irritates the crap out of me. Here we go. I brought this up during the World Tobacco Harm Reduction Day broadcast, and I'm going to bring it up again. Remember what he said? It's harmful to kids in their formative years. Nicotine is something that's unsafe. It's a stimulant, right? We're familiar with stimulants. Here's Popular Science. Look at this. This is the June 2015 issue. And that's an ad for a hearing aid, which is, I don't need one of those yet. I really don't.
Yeah,
This is an article about caffeine, the surprising downers of the planet's most popular stimulant. And what's the first point here? 73% of U.S. kids consume caffeine on any given day, according to a 2014 pediatrics paper. A Yale study found that middle schoolers who imbibe in energy drinks are at a 66% higher risk for hyperactivity than their peers who abstain. Kids' caffeine usage is also linked to depression and substance abuse. Adults suffer too. Caffeine withdrawal was added to Diagnostical and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 2013. It's seen frequently, often alongside anxiety disorders, said David Salvage, New York psychiatrist who specializes in addiction. Okay, the other thing they talk about is, of course, the availability of pure powdered caffeine. Available in bulk on eBay, and there's also a couple other sources for it. In 2014, the Food and Drug Administration, we're familiar with them, right? Spurred by 2 lethal overdoses, they warned that people should avoid this stuff, but an outright ban is unlikely. The other thing, too, it's the world's most commonly used psychoactive drug. There you go. See, there's a duplicity here. They're so two-faced about this because, yes, I know that nicotine it affects the dopamine center of the brain a little bit differently, but we're talking about stimulants that are all basically in the same family here. One of the barriers to safe consumption is that regulation is all over the place, says Murray Carpenter, author of Caffeinated. If you put 200 milligrams of caffeine powder into a 5-hour energy shot, it's regulated as a supplement, he says. But press it into a tablet like No-Dose, and it's an over-the-counter medication. You know how many times I have seen kids walking around with a huge energy drink that's loaded with caffeine? Or popping energy shots? And I'm talking about young kids. Blended into 6 soft drinks, and it's a food. So there you go. That's all I have to say. It's duplicitous, and it's deceptive, and honestly, I think nicotine is... Oh, look at Ed. That's perfect.
Drinking his monster.
Drinking his monster. Let's continue. We're never going to get through this.
Cigarettes not only risk addiction, they also jeopardize their mental development. Increased e-cigarette usage among kids is no accident. It is the inevitable result of federal regulatory paralysis that's done nothing to prevent or even discourage e-cigarette companies from marketing to kids. FDA should take the following steps. First, it should promulgate the deeming rule as soon as possible. When it sets a target date, it should actually meet it. Second, it should immediately apply to e-cigarettes all the provisions of the 2010 rule on marketing youth. Third, it should prohibit the sale of e-cigarettes in remote transactions, including internet sales. Fourth, it should prohibit kid-friendly flavors in e-cigarettes. To the extent there may be trade-offs between maximizing the range of conceivable flavors in order to appeal to adult smokers and potentially addicting kids to nicotine, those
what is the
trade-offs should
acceptable
be
range?
Oh, there you go. So basically,
What
he
is the
saying,
acceptable range of flavors here?
Well,
who
that
deems
is not
what's acceptable?
defined. That is not defined, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on because there's something scary. I kind of made a correlation here, and I don't know. I want to get your opinion on it. But basically, he's saying he'll continue here.
in favor of preventing kids from becoming addicted.
So he's saying that basically, if there's a choice between an acceptable level of flavors and getting kids addicted, you know, you basically need to sign on eliminating that appeal to children. That's what he wants the FDA to do. He wants them to come down hard on flavors, especially the ones that would appeal to children.
Fifth, FDA should adopt rules requiring e-cigarettes to meet high standards of purity and strict product specifications, and prohibit the sale of e-cigarettes unless they're manufactured according to good manufacturing practices.
That's a key word right there, guys. I'm telling you what, and I wanted to talk about GMP. There's a lot of people missing the boat with this. There's a lot of e-liquid manufacturers that are building ISO labs right now. Trust me, GMP is going to be a key word here, and it's not just because this old doddering fool is saying something about it. It's because it is sincerely going to be one of those things that you have to meet, and it's prohibitively expensive. So do your homework now. And trust me, it's going to take somebody far smarter than me to advise somebody on that. But I do know that that is going to be a requirement, or at least it's bound to be.
Sixth, FDA should immediately require child-resistant packaging of e-cigarettes. None of these steps would prevent e-cigarettes from playing a constructive role in promoting adult cessation. The current unregulated market does nothing to facilitate this goal. Instead, it rewards the most irresponsible companies who focus their marketing on young people. Establishment of a strong regulatory framework is the most effective way to enable e-cigarettes to help smokers quit while minimizing the risk of adverse population-wide effects.
Yeah.
Can I state the obvious here without being a true dick?
Uh-oh, look at Ed. Come on. What are we going to do?
I'm not marketing to children.
This guy's point is pretty well moot, since by the time deeming regs come down, he'll probably be planted.
Yeah, I guess that's a point.
Looks like he's got a pole holding him up now. But, I'm not going to sling arrows at the guy. This is the mentality of a lot of people that are advising legislators. And again, if you don't believe that this is a choreographed legislative process, then you're fooling yourself. Yeah. That's a nice little two-wheeler there, Ed.
Yeah, Bruce asked what the target process is for the GMP spec. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. I just know that I've talked to too many people who are much more, not well informed, that's the wrong word, but much more financially vested in this industry. And I know that is the direction that they're going in. It's not just ISO, it's also GMP. And I don't know if that's just a better safe than sorry thing, or if that will actually become part of the requirements. But it's something that needs to be at least thought about.
It's a moving target. And this moving target has been shifting back and forth for months and even years.
That is the key to remember here. Look, if the FDA wants to rein in on a market that is oversaturated, I'm using the words oversaturated, but on a huge market of e-liquid manufacturers, because let's think about this. What are they going to have to do after the deeming regs go through and they become law? They're going to have to enforce it.
Exactly.
How many companies would you like to enforce? Let's just look at the fact that the FDA doesn't really have more than just a bare minimum framework for enforcement right now. If that, they're going to have to hire people, they're going to have to train people, they're going to have to get all that meshed out. And on top of it, would they rather just have 20 companies to deal with? And again, I'm talking worst case scenario here. I know people are going to freak out when they say 20 e-liquid companies, but you know what? How many are actually GMP and ISO right now? I know ISO, there's quite a few. I talked to the guys at Mod Fuel while I was at Expo, and they're ISO. But GMP, that's a much smaller number. I don't know. Okay.
OMG.
Enough about that.
Heck said, what will we be forced to vape?
Tobacco and menthol.
Yep. Right there.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, that's thinning of the herd, Jeannie. Okay, so Jerry, and this is a great piece by Gilbert Ross, and we opened up our show with the question here: is Mitch Zeller's continuum of risk nothing more than posturing? And this is something that I've been thinking about more and more lately, because I always really admired the guy's continuum of risk policy and or his thought process with these basically levels of harm reduction and the benefit to public health. But I'm starting to doubt that he actually has those motives at heart. Jerry, go ahead.
So, to save lives, World No Tobacco Control Day. Every May 31st, the WHO endorses a World No Tobacco Day. And this is in keeping with their utopian fundamentalist worldview, in which not only smoking, but also tobacco and nicotine can, at least, be eradicated from our midst. The endgame for tobacco. This approach, which brooks no compromise with nicotine use from any source, except, of course, those FDA-approved patches, gums, and inhalers, has left us in the current situation, with public health officials everywhere lying to smokers and the public about illusory potential harms of e-cigarettes, vapor products. The prohibitionist quit or die demand that smokers trying to quit, as 3/4 of them wish to do, use only the patches, gum, and drugs approved by the FDA, consigns all too many of them to lingering illness and death, as these methods fail to help 9 times out of 10. The head of the FDA Center for Tobacco Products is an ex-salesman for GlaxoSmithKline products named Mitch Zeller. He frequently has alluded to his belief in the continuum of risk of nicotine and tobacco products, and that regulation of these products should be commensurate with their actual risk, but his actions at CTP, as CTP chief, belie this evidence-based approach.
His FDA Tobacco Center makes a pretense of seeking solid scientific data to assess the risks and benefits of vapor products. But what, in fact, are they actually doing? They are seeking proposals solely for the purpose of detecting harmful effects, funding no study, not one, whose aim is to discern beneficial effects, as compared, of course, to smoking. This week, the agency is hosting a workshop on e-cigarettes, replete with presentations from die-hard harm reduction antagonists, well-known data manipulators, and charlatans whose experimental outcomes were a foregone conclusion well before the experimentation was done. Meanwhile, respected clinical researchers with vigorous data supporting the beneficial impact of e-cigs were not tendered invitations to present their work. You notice Farsalinos was not there. He was not invited. He actually didn't he get a plane ticket? I mean, he was he was
plane ticket in a
go.
hotel room, and he was slated to go. And he was uninvited. I believe it was just a couple of weeks prior, if not sooner than that.
Again, not one. Some were granted a 3-minute slot to present the science-based facts to the invited panelists, a task akin to Tantalus pushing that rock uphill. Again, yeah, you have people who are so indoctrinated into what the educational and the medical community has produced as far as research, that 3 minutes with them without being allowed to make a presentation via slides. I mean, it's a momentous, it's a very difficult task. Why was someone from the clearly conflict of interest laden pharmaceutical sales force chosen to head the FDA's Tobacco Center? That's Zeller. Former pharmaceutical sales. Could Zeller's prior work with Big Pharma have possibly influenced his decision to construct regulations that would essentially ban reduced harm products, which would in turn support sales of cigarettes and Big Pharma's nicotine replacement therapies? In the absence of any valid rationale for subjecting low-risk products to regulations as stringent as those applied to lethal addictive cigarettes, that anti-science, anti-health agenda might be inferred.
Here's the key. E-cigarettes and vapor products may not be completely safe over the long term. Nothing really is. But all they need to be is significantly less harmful than smoking combusted tobacco, which the harm reduction opponents know, but they never acknowledge when they lie and distort to scare desperate addicted smokers away from vaping. And it's working. More and more smokers now believe that e-cigarettes are no safer than smoking combusted tobacco. Congratulations, CDC, FDA, et al. Yeah, big tobacco control. What realistically can be done to avoid this destructive outcome? Several opportunities seem possible, even if they're unlikely. Number one, The FDA's final rule may diverge from the original proposal in a manner sufficient to allow for continued marketing and innovative improvements in e-vapor products without expensive, time-consuming submissions. I believe this is unlikely at best, given the CTP's prior statements. OIRA in Washington, D.C. might mandate such changes in the name of public health and economic benefits as well. Those of us devoted to public health should try to make our science-based positions manifest to those oversight regulators. They are accessible to such discussions. 3, a bill proposed in Congress by Representative Tom Cole would delay the substantial equivalence date for allowing products to remain on the market from February 2007 to whenever the new regulation is enacted. The FDA Deeming Authority Clarification Act of 2015 would merely delay the implementation of the full deeming regulations, so it's half measure at best.
Yeah. I want to play a video clip. This is again from the very same FDA workshop that Gil Ross was talking about in this piece, and this is Scott Balin discussing the value of tobacco harm reduction. So here you're talking about an industry professional, but I want you to pay attention to his words here, particularly at the, let me see if I can find it here, at the 148 mark. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit and try to get to that. Let me see, we'll just start it from 145.
The questions I've mentioned, I think there's an overarching, equally important question that needs to be asked. What are the unintended consequences of not making science-based, lower-risk, regulated alternative products available to the users of cigarettes? This year, 5.3 million people will die globally from the use of the deadly cigarette. In this country, over 400,000 will die prematurely from using the combustible cigarette. The devastating effects on the cigarette on the population should be a paramount consideration in whatever is considered and discussed, whether it be ENDS or other lower-risk non-combustible products such as snus, lozenges, dissolvable gums, or even NRT. It really is time to seize the opportunity to establish a regulatory structure that meets the rapidly changing environment, and I encourage the agency to make that the primary priority. And lastly, let me reiterate, because there was a lot of discussions on children yesterday and adolescents, I think the majority of people do agree that all stakeholders need to be involved in ensuring that all tobacco, nicotine, and alternative products, including ENDS, should not be purchased or possessed or used by children and adolescents. Dealing with that issue head-on both the individual and the public population, I have suggested that there should be a national summit to discuss those issues and to work cooperatively to achieve those objectives. Thank you very much.
So the big takeaway here for me is that if you look at it, what he's saying is if we don't adopt some sort of approval process for reduced harm or tobacco harm reduced products, how much loss of life are we going to incur from that versus what they're saying, what they're spouting, what they shouted that first day so onerously? And basically, you know, they even went as far as at one point to say, and we've got Greg Connolly, we can play that, of course we're already over time, but they went as far as to say that, vaping is not necessarily any safer than smoking combustible cigarettes. That's something we already have learned, okay? We already know that by orders of magnitude that it's safer. What this guy is saying, what Scott Balin is saying is, let's consider the loss of life if we don't allow reduced harm products on the market. And that's a very good point. And as a public health advocate, I can't believe that people would be so myopic, so nearsighted as to just think, oh, well, this could actually sit on surfaces. It's third-hand dangerous because now the oil is on this surface and it could possibly carry just a little trace of nicotine. Or if I work in an office building and we don't have 5 vents in our room and somebody's vaping, that impinges on my personal rights because now I might have the risk of catching banana cream pie cancer or whatever the heck they're. It's ridiculous.
It doesn't matter what you believe; it matters what you can prove.
I guess so. Yeah.
I'm interested that they adopted ENDS.
Electronic nicotine delivery systems.
I mean, I like the one that came out a long time ago, and that was to put a penis in your mouth, and that is a personal inhalation nicotine. A personal electronic nicotine inhalation system.
Yeah,
a penis.
I remember.
Send that memo, Ed. I think they'll change that.
Yes.
Yeah, they should start saying that.
So we've got a couple more videos on this list here. Oh man. Okay. For some reason I can't play that one. Never mind. We don't have any more videos, so we will move on to the next story, which is
Inikin. Inikin announces the revolutionary True Vaporizer temperature control technology from prnewswire.com. Inikin today announced its new temperature control ITC technology. This new temperature control makes vaping safer and better. You'll never again suffer from a dry hit or burnt wick. Burnt wick, I never want to suffer from a burnt wick, even when you run low on e-liquid. Inikin temperature control technology is the first to deliver real and accurate temperature control to vaping, thereby eliminating burning and dry. Didn't they already say that already? Maximizing battery efficiency and ushering in a new era of harm reduction. Did they know that the M class was out already? Their device is accurate to 5C, do a conversion for Fahrenheit, and our innovative new technology can use all standard coil winders, including Kanthal, Nichrome, Titanium, and Nickel, to accurately set and maintain the perfect temperature for your vape. With Inikin, the temperature control, there is total accuracy with no guessing, cuts or caps. You can set the temperature, and God, this is like really a run-on.
We get the point. Big takeaway here, it does temperature control on Kanthal. Now, to my mind, the only way they could possibly be doing that is if they were actually storing the variables for the wire on some sort of onboard memory. But I don't know, they may have found another way to do it, because you don't have active probes in all the different types of atomizers that you're using analyzing the temperature of the coil. And it certainly wouldn't be that accurate, because normally what it does is it reads in a temperature control chip, it reads the changes, the expansion and contraction of the wire, and that's how you get your variable for what temperature you're running at. And with Kanthal, it doesn't stretch that much. It really doesn't. It's pretty constant. So
let me address chat real quick here. Jeannie was saying we have to have proof. No, that statement from me is to legislators. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you can prove. And, Jeannie, whether you realize it or not, you actually have proof. There are studies out there that have been done by Farsalinos, by Dr. Igor Burstin, amongst others. You actually have scientific proof that you can take with you. And while, in my mind, and from what I've seen and what I've heard, what the government counters with is weak and feeble at best, and it's dated, and a lot of it is just completely ludicrous and has been rebutted by other scientists doing other studies. And that to me is it. When a legislator tells me, well, the secondhand vapor is really bad, it doesn't matter what you believe, and it doesn't matter what you've heard. It's what you can prove.
We're going to get to the rest of the stuff here. I got to play this because it's going to irritate me if I don't. So originally I was going to give the bag of dicks to Plumes of Hazard because they stole a bunch of our news stories this week.
That is true. Gold-plated or hashtag high horse bag of dicks.
Yeah, we're not censoring for some reason this week too.
No, we're not.
There it is, and we are going to award this to Francis Bud Offerman, who is from OSHA, I believe. Let me see if I can play this.
Offerman.
I'm not going to play all of it.
He is from the Indoor Environmental Engineering, and he will be speaking on chemical emissions from e-cigarettes, direct and indirect passive exposures.
Yeah. So, Bud Offerman. Yeah. I'm going to fast forward this. He made a very visual and compelling demonstration of the fact he was trying to get across. Basically, he showed some slides talking about how, there's diacetyl and there's formaldehyde in what we're drawing into our lungs. But he also made the point of PG. PG was like the big demon here, and it was the oil that you're filling your lungs with, and he made it very visual, and I got to give it to him because it had a little bit of impact.
Not just Gonowitz, but other people that are using DMPH on silica gel. You can see the aerosol go right through the sampler, and we know that most of the formaldehyde is dissolved in the liquid aerosol droplets. Also, I think we're all using smaller number of puffs. I used Massey's data. He was using 150 puffs. I believe he's using less puffs now. But we wonder about how much oil, if you put in that much oil into a sampler, how effective it can be. The aldehyde emissions are believed to be, of course, primarily from result of oxidation of glycols. And,
I'll fast forward a little bit further here so I can get to
right
it.
Through these impingers.
Basically, what he's doing is he's talking about the fact that there's the type of testing that is traditionally used in this doesn't capture as large an amount of pollutants because it is only capturing it at the gas phase, and he's basically saying that it's at the point where it's a particle.
Right, it's particulate or aerosol.
Right, the aerosol form or particulate form is where they're finding larger concentrations of formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde, and I didn't think myself. Formaldehyde is extremely volatile. Who would think it would be in the particle phase? But it is. Whoops, I did that again.
Yeah, he turned off the projector about 3 or 4 times. The guy is truly...
How can I trust this guy to run a study when he can't run a projector?
Of course, the nicotine is extracted from tobacco, and there's some carryover. Regulation, FDA.
Yeah,
we need some
he's very
things.
wordy. This was like a 15-minute presentation. Here we go.
Propylene glycol.
Let me rewind it a little bit. There we go.
They cite generally recognized as safe by the FDA. That's for ingestion, right? So inhaling these things, and then for the companies to say the FDA approved, I think that's not right. The propylene glycol. This would be the amount of propylene glycol. And remember, these are nano-sized drops, right?
I'm thirsty, bud.
Mr. Wizard.
That doesn't look like particulate or propylene glycol. It looks like water.
Nano-sized drops with nicotine, flavorants, and formaldehyde that goes deep into your lungs for the average user in 1 year. So I know there's a lot of attention to the carcinogens, but the immense amount of oil, all for the purpose of just emulating that tobacco smoking experience. If you really want to make a true sensation nicotine delivery device, I don't think trying to emulate the tobacco experience is the way to go, and I think this is a big issue.
That doesn't make any sense.
I'll tell you this. If he did this in California, he'd get the shit kicked out of him for wasting water.
That's true. Let me see if he has anything else.
E-cigarettes, they do emit many harmful chemicals. The industry, I think, is back down a little bit, but not long ago it's just harmless water vapor.
Yeah.
Some of these are carcinogenic, such as formaldehyde, the metals, and the nitrosamines that are carried over from the nicotine extraction.
Nitrosamines.
In addition to posing health risks to the users, the emissions of glycol and nicotine from e-cigarettes pose a significant health risk to non-users. So I think we need to think about those things. And
I think if you let this go on any longer, I'm going to give you the bag of dicks, James.
I'm sorry.
Gas phase.
I'll cut it off there. Trust me. Look, I'm telling you right now. I thought I was going to go crazy, Ed. I watched so much of
I can
these
attest
workshops. Yeah, but anyway, Yeah. So that's it with that guy, and he gets the big dicks. So. Congratulations, Francis Bud J. Offerman. You have been awarded the bag.
This dick's for you.
Use them in good health, Uncle Bud.
That's got oil on it.
Oily. He is awarded a bag of oily dicks as a result of that speech. So, all right, Ed, you got something?
I've got
a paper towel.
A paper towel. Ooh. I'm going to tell you guys how to get a sub-tank mini for $10.49 from one of my favorite shop is Fastech. I like Fastech. Now, I don't buy devices from Fastech. I don't trust the electronics. But they sell a replacement base for the sub-tank mini. So it's a replacement base. It is $6.55. They sell this acrylic tank. It is $1.89. It screws in just like this. I think it's kind of cool. I like it. They do have authentic coil heads. You can buy the knockoff ones there, but I just recommend stay away from them. I read the reviews on there. They're not good. I even did the little security thing online, and these are true authentic. These are $10.25 a pack, $2.05 each. You can get yourself a sub-tank mini for $10.49.
Woohoo!
That is a great deal. And they also have the shorter bell tanks if you want a shorty.
Who doesn't?
Little something. It doesn't hold nowhere near as much as e-liquid, but
hence the name Shorty.
Shorty. I mean, compared to what? Maybe $35 about the cheapest. So
All
there
right.
you go, guys. Sub-tank mini.
I'm just going to go on record and say I hate Fastech, so you can get it cheap if you want to do that, but
yeah, if you want to get it cheap, you want to wait because that took me about 3 weeks to get, but it was something that I didn't need.
All
I'm
right.
like, hey, that's a pretty good deal.
Now
maybe you can get a new desk from them.
It looks like a bird pooped on yours, Ed.
It doesn't look as bad further away.
It doesn't. That's true. Just looks well worn. All right, so in the WTF segment, which is not really a news segment for this show, but we were trying to figure out what the hell this thing was. www.VaperGate.com is apparently selling, they had a press release, they are selling the world's first cell phone / dedicated vaporizer, which is capable, of course, of vaping both e-liquids and waxes and I believe herbal type mixtures. But yeah, this is kind of ridiculous. So there you go. There's a picture of it. Apparently she's obviously cloud chasing with a setup like that.
Clearly.
With that hookah hose.
That won't
running
draw
from
too
it.
much attention.
Yeah, and most of my buddies that have smartphones, they're usually tethered down to a charger after the first 4 hours. So imagine if you're actually vaping on your phone as well. I'm sure that's just great for the battery.
There's an app for that.
I was the one who coined the WTF because I was like, what the flying is this?
Yes.
And what was really great is James and I and the guys were on a conversation with another gentleman last night, and we looked at the the bios of the guys who made this, and one of them worked for Microsoft. And it was one of the most entertaining reads I had ever seen. One was a musician. I was cracking up.
Which means you get the blue screen of death every time you take a hit.
Oh my god, it was crazy.
Yeah,
it was great. Pretty funny.
So the only other thing I want to talk about is very briefly, and Plume's dedicated the larger part of their broadcast to VapeFreeYouth.com and talking about the Vape Free Youth site, which is doing some very interesting things as far as getting vendors to sign an agreement stating that they will, and again, this is really tricky because they're saying they're not going to target youth in their advertising or with their e-liquids. And a lot of these vendors weren't doing it to begin with. I would venture to say none of them were. However, they had products on the market that on the surface looked like they appealed to children, of course. So there is a website. It is www.vapefreeyouth.com, and I will just do a little screen capture here and show you this website overlaid on the screen so you can see that. And so this just talks a little bit about Mitch Zeller meeting, and I believe this was at the SFATA conference they had in Chicago, wasn't it?
Sure. That was
May 4th? Maybe not. This might have been a different time. But Zeller basically in his keynote address talked about what a concern it was that there was an uptake in youth use of vapor products. So this is a call to action for the industry. Statement of principles: youth access. We don't sell to persons under age 18. Child-resistant packaging. We agree that all bottled e-liquid is required to have a child-resistant and tamper-evident packaging. Marketing materials. We agree that marketing imagery, nomenclature, and product naming must not target persons under the legal age of purchase. Online access. We believe that verified adults' access to these products online is entirely acceptable. Age verification online. Now, number 4, this online access, this is very important because this is one of the things that is under fire. There are states that would like to see online ordering go away completely.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to enforce and track.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see at least that they conceded that that is a necessity. Age verification online. We are committed to the deployment of robust third-party age verification for online purchases across the entire industry. Age verification retail. We agree that all consumers who appear to be under the age of 27 should be required to verify their age with valid photo identification before purchase. Now, this number is kind of arbitrary. I was talking to one of my friends who said that there's several states where it's actually legal to vape. Actually, there's states where it's legal to vape under the age of 18. I'm not aware of that. But the age verification, this number is kind of arbitrary. I'm not sure why 27 was chosen. Maybe somebody else has insight into that. Age verification training. We agree that all employees at all retail locations should be trained to actively verify age before purchase. Flavoring. Now, this one is the one that I'm kind of divided on. And part of that is because Zeller has said, oh, I see Ed grinning over there. Anyway, Zeller has said that, the deeming regs would apply to e-cigs and then they'll handle flavorings afterwards. This is what it says here. Flavoring. We believe that flavors play an important role in providing adult smokers an appealing and satisfying alternative to combustible tobacco product. And then 9, this is the key. Flavors target adults only. We are committed to the development of a sensible protocol to ensure flavors used are not being used to target children. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. I really don't. Because I'm telling you what, I can see the FDA eating this up and saying it's a great move and then turning around and saying, look, this is part of your agreement and we're telling you that the Cinnamon Toast Crunch flavorings that you're using are something that is now on our hit list. So, what do you think, Dane? I mean, this kind of leaves it open for interpretation. And granted, they still have that prerogative as is, but now you're handing it to them on a silver platter. I applaud what this is trying to accomplish. And obviously, there's a bunch of vendors here, which you can actually scroll down and see, who have already done it.
I think it's a great start. Okay?
Yeah.
I do. I think it's a great start. But I want to caution that we don't want to get into this whole exhuming McCarthy. Okay? Because as soon as we start to have things like this, those McCarthy witch hunts will start happening on different aspects of different lists. Right? Do I think it needs more time to be crafted? Maybe, because I think this industry evolves.
Yeah.
And, it's not a binding contract. It's not an agreement. I think it's a good start and a good framework.
It is. It's a good start and a good framework. My only concern and caution with this is, particularly with the flavors, is, I don't know, man. It's like, I guess what it is just acknowledging the inevitable even though I'm fighting against it, I mean, I realize the merit of the plethora of flavors that are on the market and the fact that not everybody's going to want to vape the same, and very few people are going to want to vape tobacco and menthol flavors. And I would hate to see that disappear. Do I applaud what they're doing as far as their labeling? Yeah, I do. I think it's good to have a set standard.
Initiative. Yeah, it's initiative.
Yeah, it is. It's initiative. Now, are you capable? And this is where I'm telling you what, I know there's people in the room that are watching right now who disagree with me on this one. I'm going to go a step further, and I know people are going to look and say, well, that's kind of politically correct of you to say. Look, I like looking at boobs, okay? I do. I'm a guy. I'm a, red-blooded American guy. But I don't believe in the level of misogyny and the level of, how can I put this? It's the level to which sex sells has been taken in the vaping, or specifically e-liquids and mods segment. It's kind of astounding, to tell you the truth, because I understand, but here's the thing: who are you trying to appeal to? Who is your target demographic? And Dane, you've already said before at pre-show who you think that target demographic is. I'm not saying they've knowingly done that, but it's a younger generation. I mean, I really do think it is.
Again, we're talking about smokers that are quitting versus new vapors, right?
Right.
And maybe new smokers will be attracted, or ex-smokers will be attracted to this. It's very possible. I'm not, and I'm against it, because if you're going to take away the cartoon characters for the younger crowd, then you might as well step up to at least the minimum age that you're requiring in your agreement, that the framework, no, not an agreement, that's such a bad term, the framework that you're writing. So if you're going to appeal to 27 and older, I think you're in the ballpark there, right? But if you're marketing towards 18-year-old horn dogs with perpetual boners, that's your prerogative.
Here's my thing, okay? Look, as I'm 30, I don't know, I think I'm 37. I lost track. I'm 37, and to me, I am likely to look at that advertising with a woman wearing a bikini and be like, boy, she's pretty hot. But am I any more likely to buy that e-liquid? I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, no, I'm really not.
Yeah, and that's
that does not fuel my purchases. It doesn't. I have to be intrigued with the flavors, the description of the flavors that they're offering. It's not even packaging anymore. It really isn't. That has very little to do with it.
No.
Sometimes I'll look at packaging and I'll say, oh, man, this looks great. But
it's
that has
cheap
very
guerrilla
little to do
marketing
with my
to one
purchase.
demographic. It's what it is, and it's if you want to be taken as a grown-up industry and as a legitimate industry, then act as one, and that's all part of it. There are concessions on both sides of the table here, and people say no concessions ever. Yeah, you're going to have to make some concessions when you're marketing a public product.
Man. I wish I could read Bruce's line out loud, because it made me laugh.
I kind of understand what they're doing, though, because when you go to a vape shop and there's all these liquids on the shelf, ooh, look at that one. I want to try the one with the boobs.
Well, I kind of understand that, but I'm just saying it still seems like it's the wrong direction to take. And I'm talking about even the print ads, because there's, I read an article by Cynthia Cabrera from SFATA, and directly beneath it is a woman with gigantic boobs wearing a very low-cut top, laying upside down with her eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I thought when I saw that is, I'm like, wow, this is a really strong, positive woman figure in the industry. And, okay, that's kind of weird.
You just negated every point that made.
It's very hard for me to make that distinction. And again, maybe it's a generational thing. And I know somebody said that before. I'm from a generation that's apparently more sensitive.
So Jeannie says we need to meet in the middle.
Meet in the middle.
we need to meet in the middle. So e-liquid manufacturers, please start putting belly buttons on your e-liquids.
Oh, man. All right, so the last thing, I have to show these. We're not going to do any more shaming because apparently we've been shaming e-liquid manufacturers quite a bit. First, I'm going to applaud. Of course, this is time to applaud Koga, Japanese cotton, of course. They're no longer going to be distributing any product to those who choose to continue carrying e-liquids from manufacturers utilizing marketing materials featuring cartoon images and candy wrapper images appealing to youth. These are probably the most onerous examples right here. If you're actually emulating a candy down to the label, I don't know, that's pretty clear cut and dried. They're also going to be gone after because it's intellectual property. So, yeah, I applaud them for that.
Do you? Wait. And this is something that I heard on Kevin's show, where that company right there is saying we will not support a company that sells e-liquid with knockoff of the Jolly Rancher and the Lifesaver.
Right.
But they're still going to continue to sell their cotton to be put in cloned atomizers. What is the difference there?
Look, this is a really slippery slope to go down because I'm telling you right now, Kevin has talked out of both sides of his mouth with clones before because and there's we have had this discussion before. I've had it with Russ, I've had it with Kevin, I've had it with Dimitri, and look, they're all about trying to make sure that because I was cut and dried on the other side of that argument. I was at the time kind of the douchey elitist, okay? Now I understand people have limited judgments. Do I still believe that you should buy clones? No, especially not if they're downright counterfeits. But there's a difference here. This is a whole nother deal when you're talking about e-liquids and there's a public perception behind that. Let me put it this way, okay?
Yeah.
The public perceives that children are going to be attracted to those bottles. Correct. If I have a Caravella with the angel design on it and it's a clone, they're not going to think that a child is going to be. I mean, it's like a different product. And I'm not saying that we're marketing to children. I'm saying it's the belief. That's what we have to look at. It's the perception. That's what we're battling.
No, I understand where you're
which
coming
is why
from.
you're seeing the industry change.
You're mixing issues between copyright infringement and the marketing to children.
Yeah.
Clones and the duplication of a brand in a label is copyright infringement. But that's not the issue. The issue is targeted marketing, trying to attract the attention of a demographic to buy your product. Yeah. And it's two separate issues. You can't mix the two.
Yeah. What I'm getting at, what if there was an e-liquid that had the exact thing of a Hill's Brother coffee can, and it was a coffee flavor? Granted, that's copyright infringement, and that's kind of what they're saying. Oh, we're not going to support you if you're copywriting another product. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, they're also saying because of the perception, they're not going to support them as well. That was what they opened up with. So
that I absolutely agree with. I agree with you there. But you can't say I'm not going to buy anything from you because
we're going to show these too. This is just begging for a C&D letter. The Vaping Dead e-liquid, okay? I just saw this a couple weeks ago. Surprisingly enough, as an industry, we now talk about how we have child-safe caps on everything. Well, here you go. Here's a company that does not. These are new products. They're readily available for purchase. If you want to find out where, you need to look it up yourself. But yeah, that's pretty blatant right there. So it's not over yet. There's going to be more witch hunting and general malaise in the upcoming weeks. That's it. That's all I got.
That's it. Anything to expect on our next show? Do we have some?
I don't know. What about from you?
Anyone in the chat want to see us talk about something on our next show? Can you pull that bumper up for Jeannie? That would be great.
I can't get it to play.
Oh, I didn't know if you tried again.
I physically cannot get it to play, or else I would. We can play it next week. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else here that I wanted to cover. Oh yeah, before I go here, let me show you the Alliance. These are the blah 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 blah. Here's some better pictures of it. Here's the deck. So again, 3-post design, 6mm deep well, peak insulator, and here are the parts. And this is what I was talking about when I say they're very generous with the parts. You got a squared center post so it doesn't spin. You have 2 spare insulators, screwdrivers, screws, O-rings, 3 sleeves, top cap with a Delrin insert so it doesn't get hot, stainless steel wide bore, Delrin wide bore, 510 adapter, and a 510 drip tip. All for the very, very low price of $45.
Pretty nice.
It works pretty good. So I'm happy with it.
Now available on Fast Text for $10.99.
And Ed will show you how to get one for $10.49 next show.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a great 2 weeks. Fight the good fight.
Anything else, Jerry?
Outro
time?
I'm going camping.
Yay! With your shock collar.
My shock collar.
Just don't put that on your wife, dude. It's not cool.
But what if she likes?
Everybody.